Our next guest's 9-year-old daughter told her that she was unhappy with the way she looked. Like many moms out there, she had no idea what to do.
But she wanted to change all of that. She dedicated 2 years to learning everything she could about the challenges that young girls are facing and wrote Just Be You, Girl, a guide to self-esteem for all girls not living on a deserted island. Please welcome Carolyn McMahon.
Carolyn, I don't have kids, but I do like the insight into the specifics. So let's start where you started. Yeah. Your daughter was 9, and you were hearing her talk about certain experiences and say certain things about herself in particular that started to trouble you, no?
Yes. I think it probably actually started a bit before she was 9, but 9 was definitely when it sort of all came out and came to a head. And it seemed at that age that she just became incredibly aware of the world around her.
Yes.
And, she really started viewing herself in comparisons to other girls, in comparisons to the media images that she was seeing. So she became extremely self-critical of herself and sad and at times very angry that she just wasn't measuring up the way she felt she should.
So when your daughter...
So your daughter expressed this dissatisfaction with herself, as you've been telling us, but some moms, and maybe most, would just try to provide the best advice they could in the moment, help soothe their daughter in the moment, and maybe move on and hope that maybe just through growth and time it's going to sort itself out. But you decided instead, however, to do some research and go head on into this. Why did you decide that route?
Well, it became clear early on that it's not something that's just going to go away quickly. Like, these are issues that some girls struggle with right through to adulthood. So, you know, we talk a lot. We talked a lot back then, and we still do. But as anybody who has a child knows, that there is only so much that your child is going to listen to you, and then they want to listen to somebody else. And even if I would say something, it's not until somebody else validates what I said. Then it's like, oh yeah, Mom, you were right. So I went out and, you know, I said to her after one particularly long conversation, I'm going to find you something that you can read, something just for you to look at that's written for you, and then, you know, we can discuss it. Maybe it'll bring up other thoughts that you may have. And when I went to look for something, I couldn't really find something for that age group, that 10 to 13-year-old girl. Lots of great books for parents, you know, saying, you know, how parents should speak to their children and older girls, but that sort of seemed to be a missed segment. And so I actually started writing the book for my daughter. But it was...
And she's here with us. I know
she's here with us, but you can see she grew. She grew during the process.
She's not 9 anymore.
No, the process took a lot longer than I thought. So, you know, she ended up actually helping me a lot with the book and helping me edit it. So you can't say that, Mom. You can't write, you know, you can't write it that way. Okay.
And now you're both going to be helping all sorts of young girls as well.
Yeah, we hope.
So you write in this book about all sorts of different challenges that girls face. And, you know, as I was looking through this, I was thinking to myself about the experiences that I went through when I was a preteen teenager. And I really related to them. The feelings of just feeling like not satisfied with my body, not satisfied with my look, comparing myself to the celebrities that I saw in magazines. So do you think that this is just something that, like, all teens go through, that kind of angst-filled time? Or do you think that there's something distinct and unique that's harder for teens today?
I definitely think that there's something distinct and unique about today. And I think that that was actually my initial reaction was, you know what? We've all gone through it, and you'll get through it too. Funnily enough, the more I actually listened to my daughter when, you know, we were having conversations, the more I realized, wow, you've got like a whole different world on your plate than I had. Even studies, you know, will back this up. I mean, girls are struggling with their weight. Dieting is starting at a younger and younger age. Self-harm behavior, they're noting in more and more young girls. Self-esteem issues are being studied in girls as young as 5 years old. And there's so many reasons for this that are distinct in this generation than we had. I mean, social media and technology, obviously one of the largest. There's also advertising being directed at younger and younger girls. Media. You know, I often tell the story that when I was a young girl, we had prime time. We had prime time programming, and that was for programming that was considered, you know, mature content. And then we had after-school programming, and we had Saturday programming. Even those lines have blurred now. There's no such thing as that anymore. So the lines just seem to have been blurred between childhood and adulthood, and the pressures put on these girls are much stronger.
Well, I'm a mother of a 10-year-old girl who's, you know, the perfect demographic for your book. And I feel like she's very, there she is. You know, she's very confident. She's very fearless in how she steps out into the world. But sometimes I feel like she comes to me with concerns about her body and the way she looks. So how do I talk to her about that? You know, because I feel like I want to say, oh my gosh, you're beautiful, and what are you talking about? Because I see her as perfect, but I feel like I'm doing her disservice if I just kind of trivialize her feelings.
That's exactly. Don't ever say that.
Yeah.
When they come to you and say, I'm not happy, I don't feel beautiful, the last thing they want to hear is, oh, you're beautiful to me.
Now, why is that?
Because they consider it that you're trivializing it, and, you know, they're feeling real anguish or sadness or
and as you
anger.
said, I'm her mom.
She doesn't
and
care.
she doesn't care.
No, she doesn't care
what I think. It's
Exactly.
About outside external influences.
Well, maybe she expects that you're going to say, of course you say I'm perfect because you're my mom.
It's
right?
true, but she really she doesn't care.
She doesn't. I know. She doesn't. She wants the boys or the girls, like she, you know, her peers. And I think that as a parent, I mean, I know how you feel. The very first thing that you want to do is you want to comfort them and you want to make it all better as quickly as possible for them. So your instinct is to say, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, believe me, you're beautiful, but they're not going to. And I think that in an instance like that, really what you want to be doing is you want to be listening more than you want to be talking. Because they want to come to you and they want to express themselves and they want to feel their sadness and they want to feel maybe their anger. And so let them feel that for a while. Don't try to fix it right away. And then, you know, once you've established some dialogue and once you're into it, then you can start to talk about specifically, like, are there specific things that you're experiencing? You know, my daughter specifically, she sort of grew faster than the other kids. So, you know, height was a huge issue for her. Specifically, I can't fix that. Like that's, you know, so maybe we could talk about what the advantages to that are going to be for this time period in your life. You know, otherwise, maybe there's things. I'm breaking out. Okay, well, it's puberty, so maybe there are things that we could do for that. So I think you have to listen first, really hear what it is they're saying, and then try to realistically deal with what they're saying.
Okay. So I have a son, and I know you have a son as well who's here today as well. Hello. So this, yes, hello. Geared towards girls, but I know that boys struggle from very many of the same issues that girls do, insecurity, you know, troubles about their looks and things like that. So is there any, how have you as a mother dealt with those?
Yeah, the book is written for girls, so clearly that's what I'm dealing with in the book. However, I do touch on the book, the fact that it is misconception to think that boys don't struggle with this, and that girls, you know, I teach my daughter that as well. Like, girls have to be aware that boys struggle with these issues because girls seem honestly flabbergasted when they say something to a boy, like a boy should be able to take it somehow, you know, whereas if the boy said something to the girl, she would melt. So, you know, I try to teach my daughter, and I would say for all parents, you have to teach your daughters as well that respect towards boys. In terms of how, you know, my son, you know, everybody is different and every son's different. My daughter, thankfully, is very chatty. So, you know, we've been able to talk. My son is not going to lie in the bed with me for 5 hours and discuss his problems. It's just not going to happen. So I try in that instance, we try to bring up sort of like just topics during the dinner hour. You know, things like I've heard about what's going on online, about something maybe a boy's gone into difficulty with something or whatever, and just sort of bring them up as a casual conversation and feel them out, and then he can voice his opinion on things, and then we can sort of start a conversation that way. So it's not as direct, because if it's direct with him, it's going to be.
Yes.
I always find when I'm driving, too. When I'm
Anytime
driving, you know,
where it can be casual.
Yes.
But if you say to him, hey, let's talk.
No.
As not
No eye contact. Usually my back's to them. That's when the conversation's happening.
That's right.
So quickly, I know you've also devoted an entire section of your book to social media and technology. What is the #1 thing you think we should be talking to our girls about when it comes to their life online?
I think the #1 thing is that your life online is big and it's powerful, the same as all of the other influences in your life. And so I think in terms of self-esteem, you have to treat it like all the other influences. And so you have to teach your girls to be aware. Be aware. Don't just go with the flow with all of the apps and what your friends are doing online. Be aware of how those are making you feel, and to talk specifically to them about what they're doing online and how does that make you feel. Is that making you feel good? Are you able to keep up? Is that, the same with any influence in their life. It's always talking to them about being aware of how that is affecting how you're feeling about
and
yourself.
perhaps being in control of that, because it's a medium that can quickly spiral out of your control.
Yep, and I find the more that they're aware of how something is influencing them, and then the more power they have, and then the more they're in control of something.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here, Carolyn. Yeah, lots of good content. The book is called Just Be You, Girl, and we'll have more info about it at thesocial.ca right after today's show. We'll be right back.